adopting learning analytics to enrich regular curriculum review, enhancement of case study at University of Asia. Short practitioner paper.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Julia Chen. These are my colleagues, Dennis Found and Christine Amatas. We are an interdepartmental team from the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Dennis is from English, Christine is from Educational Development, and I am from both. We introduced the use of data-driven learning analytics method to extend the curriculum review framework in our university, and that is what we're here to talk about this afternoon. I will first give you some idea of our situated context, and then my colleagues will explain some of the findings. Hong Kong, I don't know how familiar you are with our situation. We changed from a 3-year undergraduate curriculum to a 4-year undergraduate curriculum in 2012. Before that, we followed the British system, and now we mainly follow the American system. And we had a new secondary school leaving exam called the Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Exam. One of the exams is English. And students, instead of giving students a grade of A all the way to F, students score 1, which is the lowest one, okay, barely understandable, okay, to a 3 would be something like a mere pass, and 5-star would be something like A+. Okay. Our university, there are 8 government-funded universities in Hong Kong. Ours is one of them. And most of our students, the vast majority, speak Chinese as their first language, and they learn English as the second, or even like a foreign language. And our students are mainly get English 3, score of 3 to 5-star in their secondary school exam. So they come from a very large range of proficiency backgrounds. And our university decided that in the 4-year curriculum, we will give them new English courses, and that all students, as long as they're not English major students, they have to take 2 compulsory English subjects. And because they come from very different English proficiency backgrounds, our university streams them into 3 streams, and they take different English subjects. One of the core English subjects that we introduced in the 4-year curriculum is actually a blended subject as well. And then our university has regular QA measures, quality assurance measures, that mainly get feedback from students in the form of, for example, an online student survey and staff-student representative face-to-face meetings. And then what I did was in 2016, I told the university that we should start introducing additional curriculum review measures that go beyond just getting feedback from students. So we did external review that included external reviewers, external benchmarking, internal review that included more teacher feedback and subject leader coordinators feedback, as well as introducing a more data-driven learner analytics aspect to curriculum review. Now this is how our streaming system looks like. There are 3 streams, as you can see. The students who come in at a mere bare pass level is in the lower stream. All students do 2 subjects, as you can see, and you can see that some subjects overlap. For example, the middle stream starts with an academic English subject, followed by an advanced academic English subject, whereas the upper stream starts immediately with the advanced English subject. And the core subject that most students take, as I said just now, is a blended learning subject, which is something new in our university. So we have a lot of questions that our regular curriculum review system cannot answer. For example, do students really make good progress from one subject to another? Does the first subject prepare students for the second one? For example, for the middle stream, does the first subject prepare students for the second subject well enough so that when students do the second subject, which is the same as the first subject that the top stream people do our students in the middle stream, can they do as well as the students in the upper stream in that subject? Right? And whether the blended part of the new subject work. So we have a lot of these questions, and that's why we introduced LA into our curriculum review system to hopefully answer some of those questions. So over to Dennis, who will say a bit about the cross-subject findings.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this is Dennis. I'm from the English Language Center. So in my presentation, I'm going to mainly talk about the program level learning analytics. By program level, we mainly want to look at how are students doing across subjects, or how are students doing across different types of, when we have different types of students, how are they doing in our courses? So once again, to echo Julia, what Julia said, these are the things that we don't know in the past. And with learning analytics, we want to know more about it. So in particular, our methodology is to retrieve our LMS data, and then to help us answer question, we seek advice from the review teams. So this is something special for us because we want to triangulate eventually, as you can see. After we know some very general research question that we need answers, then we process the data, we clean the data so that we can answer that. Of course, we analyze the data so that we can answer that particular research question. And eventually, we triangulate the findings with the qualitative review that we have been doing. So once again, we want to make good use of the data to answer the questions that we have not been able to answer. And as Julia has mentioned, in our studies, we have mainly two questions. Streaming effects means that ability grouping, we have such an ability grouping system. How does that work, or how effective that is? The next one is the progression of learning. So to make it easier for all of you, let me just recap this, we use this slide. So for the streaming effects, we want to see, because we have two groups of students doing the same subjects, level 4 students and level 5 students, we want to see whether both groups of students are doing as good as they should be. Similarly, we have one group of students who do the first academic writing subjects, then the second academic writing subjects. We want to see whether students have progressed from one subject to the other. So these are the questions that we want answered. So to answer the first question, we basically retrieve the data, regroup the data based on which subjects they have taken. So in the first one, we want to look at the streaming effects. So basically, we process the data by merging all the students taking the same course, label them with the appropriate label, which is if they're level 3 students, level 4 students, or level 5 students. And here you can see that we compare them, the results, with the independent sample t-tests. And we have 3 assessments in this course: the take-home essay, first draft, final draft, and the oral defense. So you can see that, in fact, it's quite interesting to find out that when level 4 students and level 5 students are being compared, they're doing as good as they basically, there's no significant difference between them when we are talking content. And level 5 students still outperform our level 4 students, all right, in many aspects, except for referencing. Referencing means citation skills. They put a comma, put a brackets for APA, for etc., etc. So for those that are not doing as good as they are, of course, because this is the first time for the level 5 students to learn academic writing, and level 4 students, they have learned something in the past. Then in the second draft, interestingly, the referencing, now you don't see a statistically significant difference. And then in general, all others aspects, that you can see that there are level 5 students outperform the level 4 students. And then we have a very similar pattern here as well. And yeah, but still, we also realize that actually the difference is not that huge. The practical difference is not that huge. If we consider for a grade from C+ to C, we are talking about just 0.5. So you can see that there's not really a huge difference. This is about the draft, between draft improvement. So one point I would like to highlight would be, in general, no matter level 4 or level 5, between draft assessment 1 and assessment 2, the difference is really, they just really have a very small difference in their language performance. And the progression of learning. So we would like to see whether students progress from one course to the other. So same group of students, different courses. So you can see that most of them get a better grade. And to analyze them in a different way, we look at the actual difference by conducting a pair sample t-test. So you can see that the language, they make some improvement, a lot of improvement in referencing, but not so much in language and organization. Once again, I can't highlight too much about the results here, but I just want to show you that these are the results that we can't get from the ordinary QA. So I would like to pass the time to my teammate, Christine, who will talk about the course level learning analytics.
Oh, hi, everyone. So I want to say a little bit about the... Dennis, what have you got here? Just click it. The learning analytics that we actually conducted within the blended learning course that we had, because that was quite new for us. 3 things that we wanted to achieve. Wanted to make sure that what they were doing in the blended learning course online was actually helping them achieve the learning outcomes. We wanted to understand what they were doing and to see whether there were any insights from that that could help us do things differently or help them do things differently to improve their learning. We looked at the LMS behaviour, looked at their click patterns and time spent on task and when they did things, and it is not unsurprising to see that the more that they did and did in particular areas, the better they did. No big revelation there. But it was interesting that one of the things that we didn't expect was that making an announcement actually prompted students to go in and do something. So teachers were not convinced about the idea that, you know, an announcement would have any effect, but this was able to demonstrate to them, yes, make an announcement, your students will see that as a call to do something. We ran, well, I didn't personally, someone from my team did, ran structural equation models to actually look at whether or not there's an alignment between the learning outcomes, the activities they did to master those, and then the assessment that they did to demonstrate that mastery. And they had these quizzes each week, and we were able to show that there are some important quizzes that are predictive of their outcomes in the subject, and we were also able to make some suggestions to students about which ones they should focus on, because they had some choice about that, and which ones were the important ones. We were also able to look at the timing of that, because when they started that, their quizzes, as this next decision tree diagram shows, is quite predictive of how well they actually did in the class. So we were able to use these decision trees to say to teachers, well, you can actually monitor when your students are first attempting these quizzes, because that is highly predictive from past behaviours. And remember, we've got I think there's 3,000 students in this particular sample, highly predictive of how well they're going to do in the course. I'm going through this very quickly because I'm aware of time. So what did we do with these indicators? Well, of course, getting students to log into the learning management system, making announcements to prompt that, getting them to understand that they needed to do the work early rather than late, and that was going to be helpful for them in getting a better mark. But we were also able to tell the instructors, the teachers, that these were things that they should be looking out, and not across all of them, but there were particular quizzes, and it's early on in the semester that it's quite important for them to monitor that. So these were useful things that we could pass on to the teachers that they hadn't seen before. And although it may sound a bit intuitive, sometimes some people need to be convinced by the data. So just a very brief summary at the program level, the things that the curriculum review team did differently were to add in some more language tasks for the students. At the course level, we gave some quite concrete suggestions about deadlines and monitoring students. And we were also able to formulate this into an approach that we're looking at applying to other reviews. So that's a very large piece of work in a nutshell. Thank you.
I think identifying the indicators is great, and that was very interesting. I'm always interested in what you then do. So in terms of the language tasks and the staggered deadlines, did you find, what sort of impact did you find that made in terms of students' success rates?
You mean post the review?
Yes.
Do we have that data yet? Yes. Dennis can tell you about that.
Yeah. With the learning analytics that we have done, we found that actually students are more motivated if they have different deadlines instead of one deadline that they have at the end of the term.
Yep.
So with that in mind, with that analytics, then we ask we inform the subject leaders, and subject leaders eventually decide to change the deadline to be like a week-by-week deadline.
Sure.
So basically, they have different deadlines so as to motivate the students better. And at the program level, because you can see the language improvement is not so obvious and significant, that's why we introduce more language tasks as blended learning tasks for the students. Yeah.
Great, thanks.